going on, Blossom is back, and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives. And we are back with the series of 10 to 100. If you remember, I did this for the nicest looking picture, in my opinion, for every car in the game for each RQ. Well, today we're going to do a sub-series in this series because we're going to start off with the USA, and I'm going to give you my personal opinion and my personal thoughts on what I think are the best American cars per each RQ. Some RQs were really hard to judge. Some RQs were also really hard to judge, but in a different sense, because, you know, some RQs have like multiple American cars that are really good. Some other ones, a lot of them are trash in the same RQ, but also there are some RQs that we're going to skip. As you can see over here, we go 10 to 12 because, believe it or not, there's not a single 11 RQ American car in the game. Now, we're also not counting prize cars. Just want to let you know, for this series, we're not counting prize cars because I'll be doing one for all of the major countries. Hard to do one for this series for Sweden and Austria, to be honest, or even Croatia, but we can definitely do one for the big five, like the US, Italy, Japan, France, Germany, and England. Anyway, let's get into it. These are, in my opinion, the best American car for each RQ. We start off with the Ford EXP. Now, before the Suzuki K, or whatever it's called, I think K works, came in JPT, this was actually the best RQ10 in my opinion, because performance tires, decent handling for an RQ10, and it's medium. Also, very lightweight, coming in at 1,000 kg. So in my opinion, when it comes to American cars, the Ford EXP, although it's not the best RQ10 anymore, it's still among the best RQ10s, and it is the best American RQ10. GMC Caballero comes in 12th because, well, comes in for RQ12 because it has a very low 0 to 60, but that's really all it is. It has the pickup niche, I guess, but usually these kind of niches don't really apply to commons. You never see ×5 common, ×5 pickup. Just never. Not even in clubs. But it's the best one in my opinion because of the low 0 to 60 and the high top speed. Next is the Ford Tempo. Now, once again, it has great handling for a very low RQ car, and it has standard tires. Not only does it have standard tires, and it has very close handling to a good handling RQ10, it is also medium, and it's also light. Moving on, RQ15, I chose the Chrysler Falcon. Now, there are a few cars here, like the Chrysler Imperial, etc., but I went with the Falcon just because it's kind of like the GMC Caballero, but better, slightly higher top speed, slightly better 0 to 60, and I kind of like the fact that it handles less as well, because I feel like a car that handles less but, you know, is higher in RQ in a drag sense basically just shows that this car knows that it's only going to be a dragster. Embrace that. Embrace your strength, you know? Chrysler Java is next up on the list. It has great handling. Really good handling for a standard tire. Once again, medium ground clearance car that even comes with ABS. So, not that bad, I have to say. The 0 to 60 is very weak, but this really is a wet car that you want to use. The handling is the standout stat over here. Moving on is the Ford Mustang 2 King Cobra. Now, the Ford Mustang 2 King Cobra is a very rare common, if that makes any sense, because it's a hybrid common, and usually when it comes to hybrids and commons, they never really work, but for the Cobra, it kind of found the sweet spot. It has a low 0 to 60 of, well, you know, for a common under 10 seconds, but also really good handling. You got this thing maxed out 323, which is the only way you want to do it, really. You're going to get 79 handling out of it, but on top of all of that, you also have a top speed of over 100 miles per hour, and it's medium. So what's not to love about it? Also, it has silver screen if that means anything to you, and it's from the 70s, which is a niche in itself. Moving on to RQ18, I'm going to choose the Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS. Now, this one was a pretty tough one because there were some pretty decent American RQ18s, but I decided to go with the Monte Carlo SS because it is one of the best, if not the best, common dragster in the game. It is the best common dragster in the game. Just not for test mile and 1 mile, because then you want to use the Decatur Mercedes. But for quarter mile and half mile, the Monte Carlo SS is what you want to use. The 0 to 60 that this car provides is unrivaled. Moving on now is the Chrysler Imperial. Now, RQ19 American cars wasn't a lot to choose from. Oh yeah, I remember the main competitor now for RQ18 was the Pontiac 2000 all-wheel drive. That's a very good car too. 4-wheel drive, medium ground clearance, 80 handling, but I decided to give it to the Monte Carlo SS. Honestly, I should have just chosen that and the Pontiac with having two 18s, and then we got rid of 19 because 19 doesn't really have much to offer. Low 0 to 60 for a center tire car, so I chose the Imperial in the end because it's a high top speed. It's just kind of the best all-rounder out of the options that were available. Moving on to uncommons now. The best RQ20 in my opinion is the Chevrolet Cruze. cruise because of the handling, also medium ground clearance and standard tires. And then of course we have an X Blossom Choice car, only triumphed by the new JPT, Nissan Sunny, because it is slightly better. But the Ford Mustang Cobra is still no joke. Low 0 to 60, great handling. You max the thing out, I think it's like 80 handling, and it has medium ground clearance. Moving on is the Dodge Daytona Turbo Z. It's kind of like the low ground clearance version of the Ford Mustang Cobra. It still, you know, brings a low 0 to 60 and very high handling. Very, very high handling for RQ22. So very impressive. The Dodge Daytona also is a convertible. So that is getting the RQ22 winner's medal, I guess. 23, this one needs no explanation. It's the Slingshot. You know, eventually once I cover all these big countries, I'll do an overall 10 to 100 best RQ for every car in the game. And let's be honest, I don't think there is a better RQ23 than the Dodge Slingshot. Moving on is the Pontiac Fiero. You know, very, very good handling, standard tires. That's really just about it though. I think it is also very lightweight. Yes, it is. Moving on is the Chevrolet S10 Extreme. Now this thing is a beast. I love using this car so much because it is the perfect combination of a low 0 to 60 and amazing handling, but on top of that, it has medium ground clearance. This is a car that I love to use when I want to save RQ in any track set that might have city streets. Especially if I want to use a legendary and I want to save RQ somewhere else and there's a city streets. I would like to use and love to use the S10 Extreme. You might like to use something different, but you know, if I really wanted to use like the super high-end legends and I was very crunched up on RQ, the S10 Extreme would be the first car that comes to my mind. Moving on now is, well, actually, to be fair, when it comes to American, because now we have the Nissan Leaf, and that really is the first car that comes to my mind. But moving on is the Ford Explorer Sport Track Adrenaline. Now, what makes this car so special is that it carries a very, very small niche, but a powerful niche. Four-wheel drive, performance tires. Now this is incredibly useful in clubs because very often you would see four-wheel drive ×5, but it's not guaranteed that the track sets are going to be off-road. So you want to use four-wheel drive performance tires if the requirements are four-wheel drive, but maybe the track set is like Dragon City, or even, well, you wouldn't use this in Speed of Light, but maybe twists and turns. Because it fits the niche and it saves you a lot of RQ. So once again, one of the huge positives about these low RQ cars is how much of a bargain can they be? How much value can you get out of these cars while saving all this RQ? So the Ford Explorer is a car that I like to use to save RQ in four-wheel drive events, and it handles very well as well. For a car that has high ground clearance, 80 handling is honestly quite mind-boggling, and it doesn't even seem right, but we'll just let it slide. RQ27, the Ford Mustang Boss 302. This is my go-to uncommon dragster for half mile and beyond. There is one better car for the uncommon testable though, that is the Maserati Mexico, but usually you can't find track sets where there are 4 testables. So really the best all-rounder, but also the best dragster for the half mile and the 1 mile goes to the Ford Mustang Boss 302. Not to mention it wins all the other weird drags like what is it, Tokyo drag and ocean drag and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, moving on, RQ28, the Ford Taurus Show. This is like my go-to saloon to save RQ. Also, it's a great all-rounder. It has low ground clearance, which doesn't make any sense. I have put my head under this car before when I was a kid. I know, true story. But yeah, great handling, high top speed, and a decent 0 to 60. Very, very good car. Once again, the saloon niche, or the saloon tag, or the fact that it's a saloon is an added bonus towards the car. RQ29 goes to Chevrolet Volt, medium ground clearance, and 86 handling. Now, one thing that doesn't make any sense to me is that the Chevrolet Volt has the same chassis, or it carries the same body as the Cadillac ELR. The ELR is low, but the Volt's medium. Something doesn't seem right. But anyway, this is medium for now, standard and amazing handling. 86 handling when you max it out. Now we move on to rares. The best RQ30 in my opinion is the Ford Thunderbird SC. Great all-rounder, high top speed, great handling, and a low 0 to 60. The only downside to this car is that it's low, but it really doesn't matter. Just don't put it on the city streets. 31 Plymouth GTX. It's your dragster. You want a 332 it. It gets 4.2 0 to 60. You have your Chevrolet Impala SS, which is like my dragster saloon. And you'd be really surprised to see that there are not a lot of dragster saloons in the low end. So if you ever find yourself in saloon ×5 and you need a dragster and the RQ limit is maybe like 200, the Chevrolet Impala SS would be the car to go. It has a high top speed, great MRA, and the handling doesn't really matter. It's a dragster. Ford Probe GT is a bit of an all-rounder, 85 handling. Now, not all of these cars are actually amazing, okay? Like, the Impala isn't amazing, the Probe isn't amazing in a general sense, but when it comes to American cars, that's the best 32 32, that's the best 33. I know outside of American cars, there are a lot better 32s and 33s, but when we just, funnel it down to American cars, those are the best in my opinion. 34 goes to the Chevrolet Corvette 396. It was a pretty tough one. It was this or the yellow Chevy that has 89 handling. But I chose the Chevrolet Corvette 396 just because of its amazing MRA, low 0 to 60, and high top speed for a rare. It's just a great dragster. It's a discount 69 Charger. Once again, did I say we're not adding price cars? We're not adding price cars, okay? So RQ35, Acura Integra GSR. Great handling out of this. Decent 0 to 60 and a lightweight car. RQ36 belongs to the Dodge Hornet. Now this one was a really tough battle. It was either the Dodge Hornet or the Dodge Stealth. And the Dodge Stealth is a fantastic car, but we can't really say that the Dodge Stealth is the best in anything anymore. But we can say that the Dodge Hornet is the best rare city streets medium car for American cars. It beats the, the Denali XT as well. Great handling, a low 0 to 60. I mean, also, of course, if it's a medium ground clearance car, if it's a city streets car, it has medium ground clearance. Moving on to RQ37, this one might be a little controversial. I went with the Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS. This kind of goes with my philosophy of a car that knows what it wants to be. It's a dragster in the rain. That's it. Also, there weren't a lot of good RQ37 cars for American cars. It was this or the Dodge Caravan or the C3 Corvette. And the C3 Corvette, although it's a great dragster, we're just too close to the sun where that car should deserve a shout out. Moving on to 38 now is the Dodge Demon Roadster. The Dodge Demon Roadster is definitely among one of the best RQ38s, not only for the US, but in general. Great handling out of this, a low 0 to 60, and also it's a lightweight car. And of course, RQ39. If there was going to be any bias, I would always choose this. Then there's no bias in this case though, because this is the best American 39. But you damn well know when I do a general for all countries included, that's still going to be the best 39. I'm not taking any applications. But for the USA, I can say with 100% confidence, this is the best 39 American car out there, and it makes me so proud because this is my favorite car of all time. I still get that question actually. Blossom, what's your favorite car of all time? It's this. It's a 1969 Dodge Charger. I have about 24 of them max in my garage, and it keeps counting and it keeps going. Very, very low 0 to 60. Great MRA. Not a high top speed, but it is exactly what it is. As said in the Fast and the Furious, quarter mile. I live my life a quarter mile at a time. This is a quarter mile car, and I freaking love it. And not to say that it's not good in the half or the 1 mile, it still holds its own. Moving on to super rares. RQ40 is the Blossom Choice Cadillac ELR. I think that car deserves no introduction because it's fantastic. The Acura Integra Type R takes RQ41, followed by the 4-wheel drive standard tire medium ground clearance Dodge Caliber RT 4-wheel drive. Honestly, that is just a sucker punch, isn't it? That is a 1-2-3 combo right there. 4-wheel drive, standard tires, medium ground clearance, and great handling. So 1, 2, 3, 4 combo. You got all those 4, you're already one of the best cars, honestly. Chrysler Crossfire Concept takes up 43. Great handling, but that's about it. Not much of a competition for 43. 44 is going to be the Ford Bronco Windsor. This is like my go-to 4-wheel drive off-roader for, low ground clearance cars. Not low ground clearance cars, sorry. Low RQ super rares. It's just a better version of all the other Fords in the game. All the other Broncos in the game that are in the super rare range. It's also a better version of all the Ram Chargers and the Hummers. That's the king of the crop, basically. RQ45, Acura Integra Type R. Amazing handling. One of the best handling super rare American cars in the game. Chevrolet SSR takes up the 46 RQ spot. Great handling once again. A low 0 to 60 and medium ground clearance. The only thing weighing it down is literally its weight. Moving on, RQ47 is the Chrysler Crossfire Coupe. Now, this is a car that you feel like you wouldn't use as much, but I use it a lot more than you think. It's a very, very strong rear-wheel drive standard tire car. 6.50 to 60. It has a low 0 to 60, a high top speed, and it brings decent handling. I know it's no Cadillac ELR, but when it comes to rear-wheel drive wet events, this really is one of the first cars that come to my mind. Because obviously you can't use the Ford Flex or the ELR. Talking about the Ford Flex though, RQ48 belongs to the Ford Flex. I absolutely love this car. I love the design of it too. It is absolutely beautiful. I know it's a bit of a controversial pick, and I know a lot of people actually don't like how it looks, but I freaking love the Flex, bro. I love how it looks. 4-wheel drive, standard tires, medium ground clearance, and it handles really well. Moving on to 49, we have the Ford Mustang GT convertible, medium ground clearance convertible, low 0 to 60, and high handling. Now we move on to ultra rares. So Ford Mustang 2.3 takes up the 50th spot. It's a great all-rounder in my opinion. It brings great handling in low 0 to 60. RQ51 is going to be the Blossom Choice Dodge Charger 3, followed by RQ52 is the Acura RSX, which is the car which I say that I would 2-3 233, and a lot of people were like, Blossom, you are dumb. But the thing is, this really isn't a great standard tire car. This is like a dry standard tire car. This is like a car that I use when clubs is times 5 standard, but the track sets are dry. Because what I really want to do is just focus on the handling, focus on the lightweight, and focus on the medium. It basically is what the ELR used to be, because the ELR used to be medium. So that's where I see the RSX. Also, there are not a lot of RQ52s to choose from. 53 goes to the Dodge Circuit EV. It's a Blossom choice. It needs no introduction. 54 is, well, by default, the Chevrolet Tahoe Custom, because it's the only RQ54 American car that isn't a price car, so it kind of just goes to the Tahoe Custom. I mean, no complaints, I love the car, but it's not good. 55, Trailblazer SS. This is a car that has withstood the test of time. Still one of the best, it was one of the best cars 4 years ago, still one of the best cars now. RQ56 is the Atlantic. Now, I do have some notes over here because the Atlantic, once again, not a very good car. Why is it here? That's because it was either this or an Escalade. Yeah, so Atlantic. RQ57 goes to the Chevrolet Aerovette, high top speed, low 0 to 60, great MRA. And the Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport is one of the best handling American ultra rares. Which is, you know, it says a lot for the Acura, because that Acura Integra RQ45 Super Rare has the same handling. Moving on is the Chevrolet Cobalt SS Turbo. Once again, amazing handling, front wheel drive American specialist, and medium ground clearance. RQ60 belongs to the Stealth. Four wheel drive performance, once again, is kind of like, you know, the Ford that we talked about earlier, but on steroids, but obviously it's also lowered, but it has a very low 0 to 60, a high top speed, and great handling. Moving on to 61, the Dodge Viper RT10. The main thing that really pushes this car forward out of the competition is the low 0 to 60. 4.4 0 to 60 for RQ61 is a standout. And on top of that, it has good handling as well. Not great, but good. RQ62 belongs to the GMC Sierra All-Terrain X. Four-wheel drive off-road tires, high ground clearance, and a very low 0 to 60. Handling isn't the best, especially when you compare it to the Colorado, which we'll get to in a bit though. RQ63, Cadillac CTS Coupe. Four-wheel drive, standard tires, great handling, medium ground clearance. You know the drill. And RQ64, the Chevrolet Colorado ZR2, probably in contention of one of the best ultra rares in the entire game in general. Four-wheel drive off-road tires, medium ground clearance, and amazing handling. This is exactly what you want from an off-road tire car that isn't a dragster. Moving on to epics. Chevrolet Murray, it's a Blossom choice, needs no introduction. Chrysler Firepower, it was either this or a GMC Yukon, bro. RQ67 belongs to the Chrysler 300 SRT8. Once again, the choices were pretty bleak, but I decided to go with the 300 SRT8 because it has a high top speed, decent MRA, decent handling. I mean, it's not great, but it's decent handling when you find out that it's actually medium, and it has a low 0 to 60. Moving on is the Ford F-150, needs no introduction, ex-Blossom choice. RQ69, Chevrolet Corvette Z06. Now, ex-Blossom choice, just want to say, is a good thing, okay? If it used to be Blossom choice, it means it used to be one of the best cars. And just because it's not Blossom choice anymore doesn't mean it's bad. But yeah, 69 goes to the Corvette Z06. That's a win and a win. So Wyatt, you'd be happy. RQ70, GMC Typhoon. I mean, the drivetrain, the right height, you guys get the drill. RQ71 goes to the Acura HSC. High top speed, low 0 to 60, great MRA, and 99 handling when you max it out. RQ72 basically just goes to a better Typhoon in the GMC Cyclone. RQ73 goes to the Campaign Camaro. Honestly, RQ73 for American cars are just a bunch of Chevrolets. And I decided to go with the Camaro in the end just because it handles the best. Moving on to 74 is probably the best RQ74 in the game in general. The Ford F-150 Raptor. This is the big dog. This is what dethroned the other F-150. Bro, what just happened? Alright, go back to status. Go back. That was weird. Did I click all cars on accident? But yeah, that is what dethroned this Raptor. It took a Raptor to dethrone a Raptor. RQ75, Dodge Charger Juice. Okay, great MRA, high top speed. It's a fantastic dragster and a sick looking car. Also, it was either this or the Dodge Viper, or I think it was like a C7 Corvette, which wasn't really good at anything, but the Juice, at least we know it's a dragster. Moving on now is the Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport, coming in at 76. Amazing handling, 99 handling, a low 0 to 60, high top speed, and decent MRA. RQ77 brings the Dodge Durango SRT. Now this one was either this or the Viper GTSR. I decided to give it to the best American all-surface tire car in the game. Period. Moving on to RQ78. Now 78, this one was tough. I had to go with two. There's no bias, no, not because this is a Hellcat and a Dodge, no. Like, here's the thing, hear me out. 78, it had the best American epic and below twisty car and the best American and below drag car. And really what you want in the world is just a fast car and a twisty car, because they're twisty tracks and they're fast tracks. I get there a little bit of hybrid tracks. We'll get to that a bit later. But I really couldn't delete one of these cars. This is the best twisty. It beats the FR500 in the super twisty tracks like G-Force and Slalom and Twisty Road and Twisty Circuit, and that's where you want the GT4 to really shine. And then the Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat is your best American dragster. I mean, it's one of the best. It still beats the legendary Vipers. So I couldn't leave that out either. So in the end, you know what? We had no RQ11. I'm going to put in two RQ78s. It's just wrong to delete one of them, okay? RQ79, we talked about the best twisty American. We talked about the best drag American epic and below. Now let's talk about the best American hybrid epic and below. And that belongs to the Dodge Viper SRT10. Once again, 79 had a lot of bangers. It was this or the Cadillac CT6 or the FR500, but like I said, the FR500 does lose to the GT4 on the twisty track sets, and the CT6 does lose to the Ford Fusion on like one track set, so I'm being a bit too harsh, but the Dodge Viper SRT10 is one of those cars that can keep up with legendaries. It can win you prize cars when you need it, so I'm gonna give it to the Viper SRT10. Moving on to legendaries now, we got the Cadillac ATS-V, medium ground clearance, amazing handling, and a low 0 to 60. There was no 81, so we move on to 82 in the Dodge Viper SRT10 ACR. Now there's only one 82 legendary American car, so it kind of just goes to that automatically. Same thing with the Ford GT. There's only one American RQ83 that isn't a prize car, so it goes to the Ford GT. The Acura DNX takes up 84 just because it has so many niches. Four-wheel drive, great, decent, good. I wouldn't say good handling for RQ84, and it's a saloon. So the fact that it's a saloon and it is 84 with 87 handling is decent. High top speed as well. I had to give it to this over Bollywood. 86 goes to Hollywood. Your best handling non-prize American car. It's your best handling rear-wheel drive non-prize legendary. 94 stock. Don't sleep on that. Okay, great MRA as well, and a relatively okay 0 to 60. The 0 to 60 is quite weak for RQ86 though. Moving on to 87 is going to be the Ford GT90. 91 goes to the Ford GT, and 92 goes to the Acura NSX. I mean, the final three RQs, they had no competition. They were going to be in here regardless if they were good or bad. But they are good cars. I mean, the GT90 is amazing MRA, high top speed. Ford GT is basically what you want to expect from an RQ90 plus car. Great handling, great MRA, low 0 to 60, high top speed. Acura NSX though, pretty weak RQ92. We probably won't be ever seeing this again in any series from here, but you know, it was the only one there. But anyway guys, that's gonna be it. Kicking off 10 to 100, we're gonna be doing USA. Comment down below what country you want to see next, whether it be Italy, Germany, Japan, France, or England. Let me know down in the comments below. But anyway, I hope you found this video helpful or at least entertaining. Remember to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.